Life is a fickle thing, and my journey through its twists and turns has been anything but ordinary. From the outside, my life seemed like a series of unfortunate events strung together with no rhyme or reason. I found myself trapped in a never-ending cycle of despair, battling homelessness while nursing a bitter resentment toward God for letting it all happen. But just when I thought my world couldn't get any darker, a glimmer of hope pierced through the thick clouds of despair, forever changing my perspective on life and faith. My story begins in a small, run-down apartment in the heart of the city. I was a hard-working single mother, struggling to make ends meet while raising my two children, Sarah and Jake. Life had already thrown its share of curveballs at us, but I had always managed to stay afloat. That was until the fateful day when I lost my job, the first domino to fall in a catastrophic chain reaction. With no steady income and a landlord who lacked empathy, we were soon evicted from our little haven. We found ourselves on the unforgiving streets, desperately trying to make ends meet. The burden of homelessness weighed heavily on my shoulders, and it wasn't long before anger began to well up within me. I couldn't understand why God would allow such suffering. What had I done to deserve this? Our daily life became a battle for survival. We navigated through a harsh world of cardboard shelters, soup kitchens, and the judging eyes of those who couldn't, or wouldn't, understand our struggles. My heart was slowly hardening, and my resentment towards God deepened. I would often find myself shouting into the night, demanding answers for the injustices that had befallen my family. Despite the bleakness of our circumstances, Sarah and Jake, my little warriors, managed to maintain their innocence and hope. They had a remarkable ability to find joy in the simplest of things, whether it was a discarded toy found in a back alley or a smile from a stranger passing by. Their unwavering spirit was a source of inspiration and an occasional reminder of the goodness that still existed in the world. One cold winter evening, as we huddled together under a threadbare blanket, I decided to share my struggles with the kids. We sat in a circle, our breath-forming clouds in the frigid air, and I told them about my anger toward God. Sarah, with her wide, innocent eyes, listened intently. Jake, the quieter of the two, simply nodded. "Mom," Sarah began, her voice barely a whisper, "I know things are tough, but maybe God has a plan for us. Sometimes, we have to go through hard times to appreciate the good ones, right?" I was taken aback by her wisdom. It was a perspective I had long forgotten. Sarah's words were like a gentle hand reaching out to my bruised soul. I realized that my anger toward God had blinded me to the possibility of a greater purpose behind our suffering. Over the next few weeks, Sarah's words echoed in my mind. I began to see the world through her innocent eyes, finding beauty in the smallest acts of kindness, in the camaraderie of the homeless community, and in the resiliency of my children. I felt a flicker of hope rekindling within me, but our situation remained dire. One particularly brutal night, with the wind howling through the alleyways, we found ourselves seeking refuge in a church. It was a place I had long avoided, convinced that God had forsaken us. As we huddled in the church's entrance, seeking solace from the storm, a kind-hearted priest approached. "Are you in need of shelter?" he asked, his voice soft and compassionate. I hesitated, still harboring the bitterness that had plagued me for so long. But I couldn't turn away from the warmth and safety offered in that moment. With tears streaming down my face, I nodded. The priest welcomed us into the church's basement, where a makeshift shelter had been set up for those in need. The space was humble, but filled with a sense of community that I had been missing for so long. The priest introduced us to the other residents, who welcomed us with open arms. Over the next few months, life in the church basement began to change our lives. My bitterness toward God slowly waned, replaced by a newfound faith that He had led us to this sanctuary in our time of need. I began to volunteer in the church's outreach programs, helping to feed and clothe the homeless who sought refuge there. The act of giving back filled my heart with a sense of purpose and gratitude. Sarah and Jake thrived in this environment. They made friends with other children in the shelter, and their innocent laughter filled the once quiet corners of our lives. Sarah's faith remained unwavering, and I couldn't help but be inspired by her unwavering hope. One day, as I was sorting through donated clothes, a battered journal caught my eye. It was old and tattered, but something about it drew me in. As I opened its pages, I discovered the musings of a person who had faced hardships and emerged stronger. The journal was filled with quotes, stories of resilience, and messages of faith. One particular entry struck a chord with me. In the depths of despair, we find the strength we never knew we had. It is in our darkest moments that our true character is revealed. Keep the faith, for the dawn will break, and a new day will come. I realized that this journal had come into my life at the perfect moment. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always a glimmer of hope, a chance for redemption. As the seasons changed, so did our circumstances. The church community rallied together to help us find jobs and permanent housing. With their support, I secured a job at a local shelter, and we moved into a small but cozy apartment. Our lives were slowly returning to a semblance of normalcy. My newfound faith was not about believing in a deity who had forsaken us, but in the resilience of the human spirit, in the kindness of strangers, and in the enduring hope that sustains us through the most challenging of times. I had learned to channel my anger and despair into actions that could make a positive difference in the lives of others. Looking back, I realized that our journey through homelessness, and the subsequent support we received, had been a turning point in my life. It had taught me to look beyond the bitterness and resentment, to seek the silver lining even in the darkest of clouds. So, to those who may find themselves facing their own struggles, I want to say this: hold on to hope. Even when it seems as if the world is against you, know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It may not come in the way you expect, but it will come. My story is proof that even when we lose faith in the world and in God, life has a remarkable way of showing us that we are never truly alone. In the comments section below, I invite you to share your own stories of resilience and hope. Have you ever experienced a moment that restored your faith in humanity or in a higher power? Your stories may inspire others who are in the midst of their own struggles to find that glimmer of hope and strength within.